Right, so this is going to be a new style of video. I'm still going to be doing the same style and same amount of other videos as well, so don't worry about that. But I thought I'd start doing what's essentially a daily podcast episode where I discuss multiple different things, incorporating some non-Manchester United topics in there as well, and so there won't be as much editing. But of course, if I am doing some tactical analysis, I'll put in some video going through that as well. But let me know any Manchester United or non-Manchester United topics that you want me to discuss tomorrow and for the next few days. But in this video I'm going to be discussing my thoughts on Mathys Tel, Jhon Duran and the Saudi transfer cheat code and why United are struggling to use it, despite clubs like Aston Villa absolutely cashing in on it in the last 6 months or so. So the main Manchester United news is that we've been heavily linked with Bayern Munich's 19-year-old French attacker Mathys Tel. The only issue is Chelsea have also been linked with him, so you know what that means. I do have an analysis video on Mathys Tel coming out later today, so on cue Chelsea will sign him tomorrow. But this is a bit of a weird love triangle because, of course, Alejandro Garnacho has been linked with Chelsea. Now ideally for Manchester United they'd sell Garnacho to Chelsea for £60 million and sign Mathys Tel on loan for the rest of the season with an option to buy of around £35 to £40 million plus some add-ons as well. But in reality, if I was Chelsea, I'd probably just go for Tel over Garnacho. Number one, because I think whilst Garnacho is definitely the more proven and established player, having played in the Premier League for the last few seasons and also being slightly older, as well as Tel struggling for minutes at Bayern Munich, I do overall see Tel as a bigger talent, and over the next 2 to 4 years, I think Tel reaches a higher level than Garnacho. Maybe in the short to mid term, say the next 12 to 18 months, Garnacho may edge it in terms of output in the Premier League, but if you look at both players' skill sets, I think Tel is the more complete player, he's more versatile, and around the box I would say that currently Tel was a bit sharper and more decisive compared with Garnacho when it comes to being able to manoeuvre the ball quickly and get a shot away. Tel reminds me of a mix between a young Nicolas Anelka, Christopher Nkunku and Sadio Mane, being what you describe as kind of an inside forward who's comfortable floating in between the lines, and like Nkunku for RB Leipzig and Mane for both Southampton and Liverpool, he has the ability to make those darting runs from central areas in behind the back line to get into goal scoring positions. And so stylistically, I think like Nkunku, Tel is perfect for Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3. And his technical ability particularly makes him a better fit for dropping into and receiving the ball in central areas between the lines compared with Alejandro Garnacho, who is definitely much more suited to breaking in behind, either from a wide position or into central positions. And so if we could bank £60 million for Garnacho and bring Tel in on loan initially, and then for around £40 million in the summer if he impresses, then we make £20 million on the deal, and in the mid to long term, I actually think we get an upgrade who is a better stylistic fit for Ruben Amorim's system. And whilst I don't think he's perfect for United at the minute just because of his development, he's only 19 years old, I do think United need to be signing more established players. He's such a talent that I still think it's a good deal. See, I think Tel's potential is massive, and I'd put him up there with the likes of Estavio Willian, Jamie Bino-Gittins, Kenan Yildiz, Savinho and Garnacho himself in terms of under 21 wide attackers, forwards, with the most potential in the mid to long term. I know people like to hate on Garnacho, but he does have huge potential. It's really just that his current ability is let down by his decision making and decisiveness and his ability to play under pressure. I actually think stylistically Garnacho is less of a wide attacker like the other players I've mentioned, and a player who should be developed more in the style of someone like Julian Alvarez. And so if he does go to Chelsea or even Napoli in the summer, I would like to see him operate in a role in more central positions, probably in a narrow front three, where he can move in centrally from a wide position and then break in behind into goal scoring positions, as I actually think his timing of his runs in behind the back line is very good, and his goal scoring output is actually very impressive for a player of his age. It's just the rest of his game, particularly outside of the box, that needs massive improvement. Now before I go any further, I do have an in-game Instagram group chat. We will be having analysis and discussion for the Manchester United game coming up today, as well as for all the future games as well. I'm also releasing a tactical ebook, so if you are in the group chat when that is released, you will get it for free, which overall is going to save you a bit of money compared to if you just bought it and you weren't in the group chat. So I'll leave my Patreon linked in all the usual places. So the Dorgu deal looks like it will be completed either today or tomorrow. Fabrizio Romano is reporting the fees €30 million plus €5 million in add-ons, which with the currency conversion is about £25 million plus another £4 million in add-ons, which isn't as high as initially expected, but it's still not some magnificently negotiated deal as some people are making out. I mean, any more than that and we would definitely be getting fleeced. but for that sort of money he does need to come in and make an instant impact. There's no point dropping £25 million on a left wing back in particular if he isn't going to come in and be a starter week in week out and performing at the level expected of a Manchester United starter. Unfortunately, like with Højlund at the moment, because of our FFP and PSR restrictions, we can't really afford to be signing players for over £20 million and then having to wait for 12 to 18 months for them to get up to speed and the level we need, because we need improvement on the starting 11 immediately, especially when we could have got Alvaro Fernandez for 10 to 18 million pounds less, depending on whether that 50% sell-on clause also applied to us. Now, Jhon Duran, in other news, has gone to Al Nassr from Villa for €77 million, which is about £64 million, which is certainly a good deal for Villa. But it's clear now that the Saudis aren't going to massively overpay for players like they did at the start of this football experiment, as you'd probably say that this is relatively a fair price for Duran, maybe slightly overpriced, but the issue for Villa was that with financial fair play, they probably wouldn't get more than £50 million for Duran, at least in January anyway. And despite his current ability, he wasn't even a consistent starter for them, with Ollie Watkins their starting striker. But it does raise a question of why can't Manchester United shift players like Casemiro, Eriksen and Lindelof to Saudi Arabia? Now, I am in the process of writing an article which I'll release on my Patreon when it's finished, going through what I think the Saudi Pro League should do from now till the 2034 World Cup, which they will be hosting, in order to grow the league to compete with the top 5 European leagues, and even with the Premier League itself. So if you are interested in that, you can sign up to the articles and unreleased videos tier on my Patreon, which is $1.50 per month, about £1 per month. I have just put out an article which is going to be the first of a series of articles where I break down how I think Manchester United could reorganise the club structure above and around the head coach to make it more effective, specifically looking at the role of the director of football. So if you want to read about those topics alongside get access to the Instagram group chat and the tactical ebook for free when it's released, you can sign up to the other tier as well. I'll leave it linked in the eye above, description, comment section and on the end screen after this video. Your support would be very much appreciated. So Casemiro to me seems like the most Saudi January transfer of all time, or even a move to Galatasaray or Fenerbahce. He is making the bench for Manchester United but barely even featuring. He's not in Amorim's plans going forward and is on £18 million a season, which is around £350,000 per week. Now, it is reported that Manchester United have an asking price of somewhere between £20 to £30 million, but there's absolutely no way any Saudi club is going to pay that. Because just think about it logically, why would they? They know that no other European club is going to pay that, nor are they going to even pick up half of his salary, let alone his full salary, and he seems to be declining month by month. Really and truly, United should just cut their losses and try to get £10 to £15 million, which would also get his massive salary off of the books because he is going to Saudi Arabia. But for some reason, our negotiating transfer team can't seem to put together one of the most obvious transfer deals in recent years, and that's not even factoring in players like Lindelof or Eriksen, who we should have tried to shift to the Saudis in the summer. Surely it would be beneficial to allow particularly Lindelof to leave on a free, just to get his salary off the books, because he barely plays. However, the ironic thing with this is that despite the Manchester United fan base being convinced that the majority of our players don't care about the club and only the money, I don't actually think there's many of our players that would actually go to Saudi Arabia. Even if Bruno Fernandes was offered double his £15 million a season salary, which would essentially be 4 times his salary given that he wouldn't be paying the tax in Saudi Arabia that he has to pay in the UK, I still don't think Bruno would want to leave Europe at this point in his career at the age of 30. Jhon Duran has just gone to Saudi Arabia, but I don't think either Garnacho or Højlund would go there. Marcus Rashford doesn't seem to want to go there. Anthony they probably wouldn't even want. Dalot I don't think goes. Ugarte I don't think goes. Sure, Malacia should, but I think the Saudis have learnt their lesson with Neymar in regards to injury-prone players. I mean, really we should have sold Casemiro to the Saudis when they first started buying players, at the back end of the 22-23 season, or even in January 2024, because we probably could have gotten close to £60 million back then for him, and we probably could have got like £20 to £30 million for Rafael Varane as well. So the fact that even with our FFP and PSR problems we can't even use this Saudi transfer cheat code is incredibly annoying. And it is kind of a transfer cheat code really, because Premier League clubs kind of have an issue with selling players because unless it's Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico, PSG or Bayern Munich, it's hard to extract maximum value for players due to the economic situation of the Italian, French, Spanish and Portuguese clubs. Aston Villa now have £65 million, probably even more than that if you factor in amortisation, and whatever accountancy black magic clubs like Aston Villa and Chelsea have, to now reinvest in their squad in the summer. I mean, they could go out and sign players like Mbeumo and Lookman, who both have 1 year left on their contract, for likely around £40 million combined in the summer, which could legitimately make them title contenders next season. And they did this before when selling Moussa Diaby to Al Ittihad in the summer for €60 million, which was only a £5 million profit on the €55 million they paid for Bayer Leverkusen just the season before, but they would never have got that value if they were selling to another European club. And that's around £120 million that Villa have brought in the last 8 months by selling to the Saudis, and that's about £55 million of profit. So let me know what you think of the potential Mathys Tel deal in the comment section, and keep an eye out for my video which should be out later today, and I'll leave my Patreon linked on the end screen now.